What's up guys? So previously in the anime we saw that our gang stumbled upon a disturbing human experiment lab hidden right underneath the church, and it was clear as day that whoever this mysterious pastor was, he had to be evil. Right then Lamia attacked them, and the poor girl was actually a human once, but that damn pastor had turned her into this monster. So after she calmed down, she handed them an old rugged rosary she stole from that pastor, but strangely it was made of gold, and according to Father, only the Pope and the 12 bishops are allowed to carry something like that, so he could hardly believe it was real. But Babylon remembered clearly that the pastor never used any ritual to cast divine magic on him, and that alone was solid proof that maybe one of the 12 bishops was really involved in this whole mess. So a big plan was arranged to separate the bishops during the grand festival to both protect the Pope and flush out the pastor. Meanwhile, the pastor himself was already preparing to rain down hell right as the grand festival kicks off. So now as the new episode begins, Prince Albert already put his plan in motion. It was the day of the Holy Festival and Silpha herself took the lead in separating each bishop from the Pope while also keeping a close eye on them. Naturally, some bishops opposed this idea, but the Pope understood and complied with the royal request. For safety, a special carriage was prepared for each bishop and the Pope. Silpha chose to accompany Bishop Anastasia, while one hothead named Bats was roaring about wanting to fight anyone who attacks him. But Dante reminds him to act like a bishop and not a fool. In each group there were 2 or 3 bishops paired with trusted allies of Lloyd. Tau even prayed to get a handsome bishop but instead ended up with 2 bald old men. Babylon on the other hand got stuck with someone who still treated him like a criminal and accused him of trying to dirty the church's name. And just like that, everyone got separated. Albert then went to meet his father and told him the Pope was on his way. Charles and Pope Gaetan went way back as friends, and soon the Pope arrived at the cathedral and Charles lit up like a child seeing his longtime friend again. They started catching up like best buddies, but Albert urged them to get inside since it was raining. Everything seemed peaceful, but that peace itself was making him nervous. Earlier he had shown Charles a painting of the pastor who had attacked the cathedral, but Charles claimed he had no memory of that man. The festival was about to begin and sadly they couldn't cancel it, so Charles gave Albert free hand to handle security however he wanted. Silpha meanwhile was catching a lot of attention in her new outfit. Turns out Anastasia had forced her to wear a flashy dress instead of her usual maid uniform. Silpha stayed cautious because Anastasia had instantly noticed back then that she was hiding a sword under her skirt and snatched it away. No wonder Silpha was on edge, but Anastasia was just as sharp. She sensed the dangerous monster following behind as Silpha, but even if she tried to become an obstacle, she knew no one could stop what was coming. Suddenly the whole church began to shake and everyone thought it was just loud festival music, but Albert knew it wasn't, and suddenly a massive chimera appeared and began wreaking havoc. Gaetan then declared that the gate of hell had opened, and in that moment we were pulled back into the past. 2 church officials came to Gaetan to tell him he was chosen as the next pope, but to claim that seat he has to endure the Luma Maxima spell for purification. He stood through it without even flinching his eyes, and that was how Gaetan became pope. But what everyone didn't realize was that the Luma Maxima didn't purify him, instead it showed him the darkness of the abyss itself. And now after years of preparation, that abyss had finally emerged as Gaetan prepared to release countless chimeras into the capital. Albert was in shock because all this time he thought he has to protect the Pope, but the truth was the Pope himself was the enemy, and the one who actually needed protection was his father. Right then Jiriel came to confront him, and seeing the angel only made Gaetan bitter because he had wanted the gods themselves to descend. That was why he planned all of this. Jiriel felt ashamed that he had granted divine magic to such a twisted soul, and Albert thought that with an angel there they might still stand a chance to fight back and save his father, but Gaetan had already taken them hostage. Then the shocking truth came out. Charles had recognized the pastor's face but stayed silent. My guess is that the pastor was Gaetan's long-dead son and this whole plan was his revenge. Things spiraled out of control and Charles asked Jiriel to save Albert instead of him. He just wanted to tell his 2 children that he was sorry for missing their recital. Gaetan got ready, but he noticed Charles said 2 children when he had 7. But before anything else could happen, Lloyd suddenly teleported everyone to safety. Jiriel told Gaetan that in this mortal world he wasn't serving God at all but Prince Lloyd. That sight reminded Gaetan of the day Lloyd first walked past him. It had sent chills down his spine even though he dismissed it at the time thinking he was just a child. His true ambition was to reach the very bottom of the abyss where no one could follow. That was why he committed such heavy sins. Now standing face to face with Lloyd might finally grant him that wish. Aside from that, all the extras were teleported to the royal castle and Diane was stunned to see as how they got here. but chaos was already erupting on the streets and Albert asked for help to control that situation. Seeing the Pope transform, Albert thought he was a shapeshifter impersonating the Pope, but Charles knew that wasn't true and finally declared it was a grave crisis. Meanwhile, the pastor noticed that Lloyd was burning massive amounts of mana every second just to keep his true power hidden, the same way he himself did. There also Grimm arrived to inform that Saya and Escher were safe. Lloyd then ordered both Jiriel and Grimm to back off because this enemy was far out of their league. Gaetan had only just realized what Lloyd had known all along, and Grimm calculated that Gaetan might actually be on par with a Demon Lord level threat, but he hesitated to leave because if he does, Lloyd might unleash something even more destructive, so Lloyd promised to hold back, so Grimm and Jiriel left. Then Gaetan tried to stop them, but he forgot who he was facing. Lloyd instantly shot a condensed ray of fire and tore through several layers of his defenses. Then to really hammer in the power difference, Lloyd turned him into a punching bag and then in a pin cushion. It was a sight to behold, and Lloyd told him straight in the face that at first he only wanted to sit and talk in peace, but now he had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. And right there our episode ends, so stay tuned if you want to watch the next episode, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon, or else you might miss the updates. Till next time folks, take care.